The year is 2000. The price of this home is $250,000. The median total income of a family is $56,000. Fast forward to 2019. The price of this home is $1 million. The median total income of a family is $98,000. In 19 years, the value of the home has increased 400%. Wages haven't even increased 200%. If you're feeling financially behind in life, it's not just you. In this analysis, I didn't even include the most recent parabolic rise in home prices because I couldn't even find good household income data for 2021. But I can guarantee you, the situation has not improved. As countless data sets show, incomes are stagnating as inflation eats away all of our hard work. But it's strange because in many ways, doesn't it feel like we've generated so much more wealth in our society over the past 20 years? With the rise of computers, the internet, smartphones, and other innovations, we must have been able to greatly increase our productivity. And increased productivity should mean increased wealth. So where did all of it go? According to the Economic Policy Institute, productivity and compensation used to move in lockstep, but ever since 1973, they've completely decoupled from one another. One theory of why this happened is detailed on the website WTF Happened in 1971. It points to the abandonment of the gold standard as the reason for the divide between productivity and compensation. Now, I personally can't verify whether or not this is true, but it is a very hotly debated topic. However, I think this productivity versus pay gap highlights something that a lot of people feel today. A lot of people feel as though we've been more productive as a society. We've created more things. We've created more wealth, but we haven't experienced that wealth. So once again, I will ask, where is it all going? Well, one area we can look to measure the collective earnings of our society is the stock market. For many of us, our compensation is downstream of the revenue generated by the companies that we work for. And the stock market is a place where we price these revenues and profits earned by corporations. If we invested $10,000 in the S&P 500 at the beginning of 1994, by today it would be worth $89,000 after adjusting for inflation. That's 790% of growth. But if we look at wages, they've only grown 16% for that same time period after adjusting for inflation. Now, of course, the price of the stock market is determined by a multitude of different factors, and you could have various arguments as to why it is priced where it is priced. But you can look at the revenues and profits earned by companies over the past 20 years and see that in many cases, they have increased dramatically. So maybe it could be reasonable to say that the wealth generated by the institutions and corporations of our society is not seeming to flow very well through to the individuals of society. In fact, it seems like the main place wealth is flowing to is assets like the stock market and housing. And this isn't good because, for example, as of 2021, you can see here that the bottom 80% of Americans only own 6% of the overall stocks owned by everyone. So, I mean, hypothetically here, you could roughly say that if the bottom 80% had $6 worth of the stock market and the top 20% had $84 worth of the stock market, in 30 years, if we assume a 7% rate of return, the top 20% will be 13 times as wealthy as the bottom 80% in terms of equity-based wealth. So ultimately, the problem here is this. Wage earners have seen almost no real growth in their wages for the past 20 plus years. This has made it hard for them to acquire assets like real estate or stocks. And meanwhile, while they've been having a hard time to afford those assets have continued to increase dramatically, far outpacing the increase in their pay. And because most people have low ownership of these assets, they did not experience the massive wealth boost that the owners of the assets did. Now, I don't mean for this to be an upsetting video. My intention for creating this video is to hopefully connect with some of you who feel as though you are behind in life financially, and to let you know that probably your feelings are justified, especially when the generation that I'm a part of is continuously gaslit for being like lazy, unproductive, and entitled. And 100% that is true for some people, of course, just like it is for some people of every generation. But I think it's inaccurate to paint a group of people with a broad stroke like that, because in previous generations, your income was something like half the price of your homes. That's just not the case anymore. So what do we do about all of this? Well, I'm sure there's a ton of different actions that could be taken, but I can only speak from my limited area of expertise. When I first started my YouTube channel, a lot of you will remember the channel name was Cash College, and the first series of my videos were basically trying to be the personal finance class that you didn't receive in school. I actually have a playlist of that original series on my channel homepage if you want to check it out after. I was new to making YouTube videos here, so don't judge me too harshly based off of these. The point of making those videos, and pretty much all the videos that I make, is because I felt as though society had completely let us down in terms of financial education. I had been teaching my friends and my family about managing their money and investing and things like that, and I really realized that they really do not teach you this stuff, eh? I'm very passionate about this because I stumbled upon the FIRE movement when I was about 18 years old or so. For those of you who don't know, FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early, and it's basically this movement of people who are trying to unlock greater financial freedom in their life with a huge emphasis on financial education. Within the FIRE movement, people often take things to an extreme and they try and retire in their 30s or their 40s. Well, I'm not sure if I should say retire, but more often than not, they basically leave a career that they weren't really in love with, and instead they pursue something that they're much more passionate about. But that thing that they're pursuing, that they're passionate about, doesn't necessarily have to earn them a good income anymore. But I believe that concepts from the FIRE movement can apply to everyone. You don't have to be somebody who wants to retire by the time you're 35. You can just be somebody who wants to own a home before they're 60 years old. So let me share a few key points from this movement with the hope that it can make you feel more ahead in life as opposed to behind. Based on my life experience, which will be different from everybody, but it's the only thing that I can speak to, I found the most important first step I could take was to build my floor. What I mean by this is when I was beginning my career, I began to reduce my expenses to the point where it was like a cutoff where if I went any lower than that, I would start, really limiting myself and maybe starting to become a bit miserable. So I'm basically saying that I reduced my expenses to the point where I was still very content, but I had removed a lot of the excess in my life. I had removed a lot of things that didn't bring me true happiness. And in doing this, I actually made myself a much more focused and driven person, but that's a story for another day. So the point is, I created this floor level, this level that my expenses would never go below, because this was kind of like that minimum level I needed to spend every single month in order to be content. I could pay rent for an apartment, I could cook healthy food for myself, I could be active, I had my books, I could spend time in nature and go on the occasional adventure. As Kanye says, the good life, let's go on a living spree. They say that the best things in life are free. I have found this to be true more often than not, and I have built my floor around this. So this floor allowed me to create a gap between my income and my expenses, and this was a very small one at first. I think I started with saving 10% of my income. But what if, let's say that when I tried to do this, I was already at my floor. Like, what if I couldn't reduce my expenses anymore? What if I had kids? What if I had dependents? There's situations where you simply cannot reduce your expenses any further. And that's totally true. Reducing your expenses can only go so far. And if it were me, and I found myself in that position, well, the next thing I would look to is to try and increase my income. And that's easier said than done, of course. Again, I don't know your own personal situation. I can only speak from mine. For me, what allowed myself to dramatically increase my income was to learn a very high demand skill on the side while I was studying in school and working. I studied finance and then I went to work in the industry, but while I was doing that, I spent all of my free time trying to basically teach myself photography and videography. At the time, I had no idea how valuable this skill would be. Honestly, I just really enjoyed doing it. I felt called to do it. So I spent hours and hours after school or after work taking photos or making videos, and like, honestly, I can't stress enough how long it takes to actually get half decent at something. And so eventually I would combine my finance world with my camera world and create what you see in front of you today. Sometimes I will see people say things like, "Oh, Steve, it's easy for you to say that you increased your income. You have a YouTube channel." And it's like, yeah, I do. I worked like an absolute dog to make this happen, and you have no idea what I've been through to build this, and I have no idea what you've been through in your life. I think the internet is an incredibly powerful tool for us to leverage, but I think it works best when we support one another through it. And you may find in your life that when you start your own journey of trying to increase your income, you may be met with negativity, maybe even from yourself or from other people around you. But at the end of the day, I think the single best thing we can do right now that's within our control is to create that gap between our income and our expenses, and then use that gap to use these savings to purchase assets that appreciate in value. Ultimately, this is what needs to change, what you are looking at right here. We need to increase our asset ownership, whether that's stocks, whether that's real estate, anything with value that appreciates. Now I can hear the diehard crypto fans are saying you better throw crypto into that ring too, and I think there's definitely merit to that for sure. But I think we also have to respect that crypto is an asset class with an incredibly high volatility, meaning that the value can fluctuate wildly. So we have to make sure that we respect that about it. But yes, I personally do keep a stack of Bitcoin and Ethereum. We can't just rely on increasing our income or decreasing our expenses. We need to make sure that we own assets that appreciate in value, because as everyone is very quickly learning over the past year, cash does not appreciate in value. It does the exact opposite. I don't know what needs to be done at a societal level to fix this. I have thoughts, I have ideas, but most likely I am out of my depth with those because I am not an economist. However, at an individual level, I know what can be done because I've done it in my own life. And I've created this video with the hopes that it can help even just one person, even just make a positive impact on one other person. If you'd like to hear some of my thoughts beyond this video, make sure to check out some of my other ones and subscribe if you'd like. I'd love to have you following along. And with all that said, that's gonna be it for this one today. I appreciate you watching very much. Hope you're well, and take care.